Chapter 2, Magical Mail. Expect the unexpected. One Tuesday, everything changed. It had started like any other Tuesday. Mrs. Smith began the day with yoga, chanting, and a bowl of wheat-free, dairy-free, fat-free grains, and Mr. Smith drank a smoothie made of fish oil and kiwi fruit. Victoria had been up since dawn, moisturising tirelessly, and Tristram had beaten his computer at chess again. Faith's hair looked like seagulls had been fighting in it, and her school jumper was on inside out. "Quickly, quickly, my darlings, or you'll miss the bus," chirped Mrs. Smith brightly, scrubbing yesterday's mashed potato off Faith's school skirt. If anything, she sounded a little too bright, but she'd been reading Be a Positive Mum, and she was determined not to sound cross, even if she did have to wear special guards at night to stop her wearing her teeth down from the continual grinding. As usual, Faith sat on her own on the bus. When she was sure no one was looking, she reached inside her bag for bus bear. She fumbled around the pencils, half-read paperbacks and forgotten newsletters, but he wasn't there. She began to fret until she remembered that she had been reading a story to him last night before she went to sleep. Now, Faith loves stories of all types, all tales, short or tall, long or little. When she was reading a story, she could lose herself in other worlds full of dragons and mermaids, kings and treasure. A good story made everything better. Of course, she had left Bus Bear tucked in her pillowcase with a dog-eared copy of Magical Myths. Sugar lumps, she thought. Never mind, I can manage without him for one day. When Faith got to her classroom, her teacher, Mrs. Troublebottom, wasn't there. It wasn't long before someone came in to tell them that she had been struck down with a sudden case of mystery measles. Faith's heart sank. A teacher on sick leave only ever meant one thing: chaos. There was already a lot of shouting and throwing of bags going on, and everybody was sitting in different seats to their own. Faith didn't like it when this happened because it was difficult to find somewhere to sit. It was always, "No, you can't sit here, I'm saving it for a friend." And this time it was no different. Faith found herself moved around again and again until she ended up sitting next to Josh Plunkett, a boy known for his tendency to pick his nose and pinch people. The noise was deafening as pencil cases flew through the air like zipped-up birds. Amid the anarchy, the classroom door opened. Slowly, soundlessly, a tall man in a white suit glided in. Like a shutter coming down, a hush fell upon the children. The man spoke quietly but firmly. "Good morning, children. My name is Mr. Lancelot, but you may call me Sir. I am your supply teacher for the day. Now, if you will all kindly return to your correct seats, and I do mean your correct seats, we can check the register." It's hard to say exactly what was so special about Mr. Lancelot, but he sort of glowed. All of the girls went moony-eyed, and the boys suddenly became very well behaved. He was certainly handsome, with very smart clothes and a voice like melted fudge, but hang on a second, how did he know they were in the wrong seats? Before Faith could figure this out, Mr. Lancelot began to write something on the board. In big chalk letters he carefully and deliberately wrote, "Expect the unexpected." Then he smiled to himself and sat down. Settling his hands on the desk, he looked down at his long, elegant fingers. The seconds ticked by. Everyone looked at each other expectantly until eventually he spoke. "I need a volunteer. A brave, clever, capable volunteer. Oh yes, and they must be of noble heart." 28 hands flew up. Even Josh Plunkett took his finger out of his nose to fling his hand in the air. The only hand that wasn't raised was Faith's. What was the point? She never got picked anyway, it was a fact of life. Mrs. Troublebottom always picked Jasmine Squire with her pony club rosettes, or Francis Fleming with his tidy hair and shiny shoes. Which is why it was so remarkable that Mr. Lancelot, without even looking up from his desk, said quite clearly, Faith Smith, would you come here, please? Everyone looked shocked. Some even looked disgusted. No one was more surprised than Faith. As she approached the desk, Mr. Lancelot looked up and fixed his sparkly eyes on Faith's brown ones and smiled a delighted smile. "Ah, my dear Faith, how good to see you. Could you deliver this package to the caretaker's office, please?" Opening the bottom drawer of Mrs. Troublebottom's desk, he drew out a bulky brown envelope. Gingerly, Faith picked up the packet and turned it over in her hands. No name, no message. She turned to leave. "Oh, and Faith." Faith looked back over her shoulder. "Yes, sir?" Suddenly he stopped smiling and looked very serious. "That parcel is only to be delivered by you. Do you understand?" Faith nodded. "Yes, Mr. Lancelot, only by me."